Hello, and welcome to Dreamy Tales, a sanctuary where everyone can experience calm and a touch of magic before gently drifting into sleep. Tonight, we invite you on another enchanting journey, a story that helps soothe the mind and nurture a sense of peace. Before we begin, let's take a moment to prepare our bodies and minds for a comforting, restorative rest. Make yourself cozy, and with each slow inhale and long exhale, let the cares of the day gradually slip away. It's not always easy to step back from the day's demands, especially as night falls. Yet, remember, the less we worry about how quickly we'll fall asleep, the simpler it is for our minds to release any remaining tension. Allow the gentle flow of your breathing to wash away lingering concerns, and let the story ahead guide you into a state of deep relaxation. Now, settle in, and let the dreamy atmosphere softly wrap around you. Enjoy this story, and may you drift into a peaceful, restful slumber here on Dreamy Tales. Ilara surfaced from sleep, drawn by the far-off lament of gulls and the gentle warmth of the nascent sun caressing her face. A languid stretch unfurled beneath the covers. She rolled onto her back, gazing at the ceiling as the delicious realization dawned anew. Vacation. Her watch, retrieved from the small bedside table, confirmed the early hour. Sleep had been profound, dreamless, leaving her utterly refreshed and poised for the luxurious inertia of the day ahead. The diminutive hotel seemed to hold its breath, steeped in slumber. She might have believed herself the sole riser, but for the soft click of a latch down the corridor, succeeded by the near-silent padding of feet descending the stairs. Another soul embracing the dawn, moving with considerate quietude. A smile touched Ilara's lips. This tranquility, profound and undisturbed, felt like the perfect overture to the day. Swinging her legs over the side of the bed, she let the plush white comforter pool around her waist. Her feet met the wide, glossy planks of the wooden floor, their surfaces worn to a silken smoothness by generations of passage. Ilara rose, stretched again, and drifted toward the window. Her room surveyed the inn's welcoming facade. Across the quiet lane stood a procession of venerable homes, their expansive porches inviting repose. Flags fluttered from some, crisp snaps in the coastal breeze. Bicycles leaned here and there, among them the comfortable, old-fashioned cruisers often seen tracing paths near the shore, invariably painted in cheerful hues like canary yellow and shell pink. Through the window pane, Ilara watched surfers, silhouettes against the brightening sky, retreating from the ocean's edge, their vibrant boards tucked under their arms. Doubtless early pilgrims to the waves, they carried the contented exhaustion of hours spent communing with the swell. Dripping, smiling, relaxed, they ambled back towards unseen vehicles, likely dreaming, she mused, of substantial breakfasts. Shifting her gaze, Ilara peered sideways along the building's front, taking in the charming bay windows and the festive explosion of petunias spilling from window boxes. The porch below beckoned, arrayed with rocking chairs and small tables, perfectly sized for a steaming mug or a sweating glass of lemonade. One solitary guest already occupied this haven, lost in a newspaper. a curl of steam rising from his nearby cup. Alara mentally bookmarked the porch for a later interlude of quiet contemplation. She and her friend Lena had arranged to meet for breakfast upon the restaurant's opening. Lena occupied another cozy room just down the hall. Their seaside escape had been a spontaneous pact, a shared yearning for a restorative change of landscape. Now, enveloped in the atmosphere of this secluded haven, Alara knew their intuition had been sound. It was an exquisitely sleepy place. Merely the inn, a tranquil neighborhood stretching behind it, and a simple roadside stand offering snacks, coffee, and sundries. The inn itself possessed the quiet dignity of age, a landmark around which the neighboring houses had gradually materialized over decades. With the vibrant pulse of the city only a 20-minute drive away, this enclave had never felt the need to import the clamor of commerce. The inn provided thoughtful conveniences: umbrellas, chairs, beach toys. Sustenance was readily available at the restaurant, even packaged for seaside picnics. What more could a vacationer truly desire? The profound peace of this hidden corner was a treasure far exceeding any sacrificed convenience. Alara unzipped her canvas weekender, extracting the necessities for the beach. A thrill coursed through her at the prospect of descending to breakfast, clad in comfortable beach attire. There was an undeniable luxury in dressing purely for leisure. She yearned to feel the warm sand yielding beneath her toes. The forecast promised flawless conditions for a day surrendered to the shore. After brushing her teeth and taming her hair into a loose knot, Alara laid her beach tote upon the bed. Into it went her current novel, sunglasses, lip balm, and a water bottle. Prepared, with minutes still to spare before meeting Lena, she decided on an early foray downstairs for coffee. Picking up her room key, attached to a diamond-shaped plastic fob bearing her room number, she stepped into the hallway, softly securing the weathered white door behind her. The painted white floorboards, identical to those in her room, stretched the length of the narrow corridor, lending the space a clean, bright air. Staircases descended at either end. Adorning the walls between the guest rooms were vintage prints capturing beachgoers from bygone eras in charmingly modest swimwear. One depicted an antique illustration of a lobster with scientific precision. Alara chose the longer route, traversing the hall to the farther staircase and descending into the lobby. The front desk stood unattended. A small bell rested upon its surface for summoning immediate assistance. Yet, since her arrival, Alara hadn't witnessed anyone employ it. Haste seemed an alien concept here. Slipping into the well-appointed coffee station, she selected a mug and filled it with a dark, aromatic brew from the thermal dispenser. A cautious sip yielded a nod of appreciation. The coffee was robust, satisfying. The inn understood essentials. She had only moments to wait before Lena would materialize. Elara pushed open the screen door, its familiar sigh preceding her onto the spacious porch. The man with the newspaper had vanished. The entire expanse was hers. Sinking into a wicker chair, she placed her mug on an adjacent table and leaned back, a gentle exhalation escaping her. Even at this early hour, the air was balmy, laced with a soft breeze that teased loose tendrils of hair from her ponytail. She felt she could easily drift off again right there, content to remain indefinitely. But the siren call of the beach was already sounding. A few minutes later, the screen door creaked open again, and Lena poked her head out. "Morning," she greeted brightly. "Ready for breakfast?" Together, they navigated towards the hotel restaurant. The host welcomed them with genuine warmth, guiding them to the screened porch flanking the building. Elara and Lena were delighted to secure a cozy table for two, nestled in a sun-drenched corner. Their server promptly poured ice water from a charming glass carafe centered on the table, took their orders, and promised a swift return. While awaiting their meal, the two friends pored over a paper copy of the takeout menu, already anticipating their lunchtime needs on the sand. The offerings were tempting. Cold sandwiches, boardwalk classics like grilled cheese and hot dogs. Elara settled on a lobster roll, rich with mayonnaise, while Lana chose a chicken salad sandwich. One of Elara's enduring joys of beach days was the heightened pleasure of food consumed seaside. Something about the sun, the salt air, the sheer relaxation amplified every flavor. She eagerly anticipated sinking her teeth into that lobster roll after a few hours by the waves. As they ate, other guests gradually filled the surrounding tables. A family nearby chattered happily about the previous day's coastal exploits. Other tables seemed occupied by couples enjoying a quiet retreat or old friends reuniting for a weekend escape. The prevailing mood was one of unhurried contentment. Shorts, sun hats, and flip-flops were the unofficial uniform. Having dispatched their bagels, fresh squeezed orange juice, and fruit, Elara and Lena pushed back their chairs, gathering their beach totes. They were eager to make the short pilgrimage to the water and claim their perfect spot for the day. Passing back through the lobby to the front porch, they availed themselves of the complimentary beach equipment. Lena selected an umbrella, while Elara chose two lightweight beach chairs equipped with shoulder straps for easy transport. They descended the front steps, merging with the growing trickle of people heading towards the surf. The neighborhood exuded such tranquility that sidewalks felt superfluous. Residents simply emerged from houses lining the lane, embarking on the easy 5-minute stroll to the sand, laden with everything required for a day by the sea. It was effortless. Elara marveled at the sheer luxury of staying so intimately close to the water. Their location transformed the entire experience. Within minutes, the friends reached the steps leading down to the beach, an inviting expanse of golden sand stretching before them. Fortuitously, The tide was low, offering the beach at its most generous breadth for the time being. Children, arriving with their parents, instantly shed their sand pails and shovels, racing each other towards the water's shimmering edge. Their parents chuckled, scanning the sand for spots likely safe from the encroaching tide, at least until early afternoon. Ilara and Lena followed their lead, assessing the texture of the sand. They planted their umbrella where the sand was dry and soft, avoiding the damp, smooth firmness indicating recent tidal coverage. Traveling light, just the two of them, they were quickly established. Umbrella angled against the sun, chairs oriented towards the gently glittering surf. Leaning back, Ilara released a profound sigh, closing her eyes. The rhythmic hush of waves drifted soothingly across the sand, punctuated by the occasional faint cry of a gull. A light breeze carried the invigorating tang and elusive taste of salt. She wished she could crystallize this moment, hold it suspended. This was perfection. For several minutes, the friends sat in companionable silence, absorbing the profound beauty of the place. Then easy conversation flowed for a time. Eventually, both Ilara and Lena retrieved their novels, succumbing to a mutual, unspoken understanding that this interlude was dedicated to literary immersion. Around them, other beachgoers settled into their own rhythms. A nearby family embarked on constructing an ambitious sand castle, their small children making tireless journeys to the surf, fetching bucketfuls of water to fill the moat, oblivious to the sand's thirsty absorption. The fetching itself was the grand adventure. A young couple tossed a frisbee back and forth, their dog leaping joyfully between them, attempting to intercept the soaring red disc. When the frisbee occasionally flew astray, another beachgoer would cheerfully retrieve and return it, often pausing to inquire about petting the dog, who seemed eager to befriend every soul on the sand. There was no boardwalk here, no buzzing planes trailing advertising banners, no hum of nearby traffic. This beach felt like a sweetly guarded secret, shielded from the world's glamour. In this languid fashion, time dissolved, slipping by unnoticed. Ilara lost track of how long she read before realizing the sun stood high overhead and she had drifted into a light doze, her book resting open on her lap. Stirring, she glanced at Lena, who regarded her with an amused smile over the top of her own novel. Unsure of the exact hour, but acutely aware of her hunger, Ilara knew the moment for her anticipated lobster roll had arrived. They opened their bag, unwrapping their lunches with relish, nestling cold water bottles into the sand beside them, and tearing open bags of potato chips with a satisfying crackle. The tide had crept noticeably closer since their arrival. Children who had been in boundless balls of energy hours earlier now drifted towards the shade of parental tents and umbrellas, claiming midday snacks. Ilara observed a mother nearby, a sleeping baby draped peacefully across her lap. The sea air possessed a unique duality, both invigorating and profoundly soporific. The lobster roll and chicken salad sandwich were soon consumed. Both, Ilara and Lena concurred, were exceptional. Dusting stray crumbs from her lap, Ilara stood. "Going to dip my toes in," she announced to Lena, who nodded in understanding. The hours under the sun made the sparkling water seem utterly irresistible. Ilara wandered down to the wave line, watching as the surf crept up the sand, swirling coolly around her ankles. The chill was delicious, a perfect counterpoint to the accumulated warmth of the sun. Bending, she splashed handfuls of the frigid water onto her shoulders and the back of her neck. Shielding her eyes, she surveyed the aquatic activity. A woman floated serenely nearby on an inner tube, casually consuming an ice cream sandwich. Now that, Ilara thought with an inward grin, is inspired. She stood, observing the wet sand beneath her feet as the water washed in, paused, then receded, revealing transient patterns. Tiny flecks of some glittering golden substance were embedded in the sand, visible only when submerged. It was unexpectedly beautiful. Strolling along the water's edge, she reached a rocky outcrop teeming with tide pools. Balancing carefully on the uneven surfaces, she peered into the trapped miniature worlds, watching minuscule hermit crabs scuttle across their sandy floors. Children knelt nearby, absorbed in close examination of the tiny creatures. One suddenly scrambled up, running back towards his parents on the dry sand, eager to report his thrilling discovery. Looking up from the pools, Ilara saw Lena, now a small, distant figure beneath their umbrella. She slowly retraced her path along the encroaching water line until she regained her seat. Picking up her book once more, Ilara noticed Lena had succumbed to a nap and smiled inwardly. Even that brief amble along the shore had renewed her desire to simply sit and be. As the afternoon deepened, time seemed to stretch and soften. Ilara frequently looked up from her novel, letting her thoughts drift aimlessly. She watched a man skillfully maneuvering a vibrant kite against the blue expanse, and observed the steady growth of the sandcastle fortress nearby. Some of the children she'd seen running tirelessly earlier now slept soundly in the shade beside their parents. A few families around them began the slow process of departure, shaking sand from buckets, diligently filling in excavated holes, collapsing colorful chairs. The tide, relentless in its turning, was now lapping much closer to their position. When Lena stirred from her nap, Ilara confessed to feeling rather warm and, simultaneously, peckish again. Lena readily agreed it might be an opportune moment to retreat to the inn for a snack and to prepare for dinner, gathering their belongings and the borrowed beach equipment. Ilara and Lena slipped on their flip-flops and ascended the stone steps leading back to the street level. The late afternoon pulsed with gentle activity up there. Beachgoers, laden with sandy gear, were heading away from the water, mingling with residents engaged in various pursuits in the yards facing the lane. At one sprawling home, a family was engrossed in a light-hearted game of croquet. Next door, preparations were underway for an outdoor meal, a table being set while children tumbled in and out of the house. Some youngsters appeared freshly bathed and dressed for the evening. Others, still gloriously sandy in swimsuits, were clearly awaiting their turn, chasing each other through the yard with dripping popsicles. Ilara and Lena soon arrived back at the inn, gratefully depositing the umbrella and chairs on the porch. After a quick dusting, they carefully stacked the borrowed items where they had found them, leaving them ready for the next guests. Stepping into the lobby, they were met with a delightful surprise. Afternoon coffee hour was in full swing. Not only were hot beverages and iced lemon water available, but a tray of warm chocolate chip cookies lay invitingly arranged, each nestled in its own paper sleeve. Ilara selected one that looked particularly promising, smiling as she slid it free and took a bite. It was soft, generously studded with slightly melted semi-sweet chips, its surface sparkling with large crystals of sugar. Sinking into two plush easy chairs in the lounge area, Ilara and Lena exchanged wide grins, savoring their cookies in contented silence. These treats were the perfect bridge to their later dinner reservation. They watched the quiet ebb and flow of people through the lobby for a while. Some exchanged warm greetings, others approached the desk attendant with queries. After a comfortable interval, Lena suggested they part ways temporarily to rest and freshen up in their respective rooms. They agreed it would be lovely to reconvene at twilight for a stroll through the neighborhood before dinner. In single file, they climbed the old wooden staircase. Reaching the upper landing, they diverged, promising to meet back in the lobby shortly. Ilara slid her key, with its familiar plastic fob, into the lock. It turned with a satisfying clunk, and the door swung inward. Her room welcomed her, bathed in the warm afternoon sun pouring through the window, the bed a haven of piled white linens. She sighed with pure happiness. After showering and changing, Ilara curled up in the decadent orange velvet chair positioned by the window. From this regal perch, she watched people strolling along the lane below. The petunias in the window box nodded cheerfully in the persistent breeze. She observed the various groups returning from their own late afternoon diversions. Naps, games, quiet chats with friends. Leaning her head against the chair's plush back, she took several slow, deep breaths. She couldn't recall the last time she had felt so utterly unwound. Without conscious intent, Ilara drifted into a light nap. She awoke to the gentle fluttering of the white curtains, kissed by the light of the descending sun. A glance at her watch confirmed she hadn't slept long. She was still perfectly on time to meet Lena. Rising and stretching, she slowly circled the room, collecting her small purse and key. She slipped quietly back into the hallway, locking her door, just as Lena emerged from her own room a few doors down, doing likewise. Together, they descended to the lobby. The coffee station remained, though the cookies had been cleared in anticipation of the dinner service. Peeking into the restaurant, Ilara saw servers arranging tables and seating the first diners of the evening. Their walk would prime them perfectly for a relaxed meal. As they pushed through the swinging screen door onto the porch, the faint, musical clinking of water glasses drifted from within the inn. Turning towards the ocean, they were greeted by a sky ablaze with pink and orange, a spectacular sunset. Many residents were out in their yards, silently observing the celestial display. As Ilara and Lena ambled down the street, they found themselves captivated by the unfolding scenes at each house. The homes themselves were a charmingly eclectic collection, each reflecting the era of its construction and the unique tastes of its inhabitants. A modest Cape Cod, with its slanted roof and quaint shutters, might sit companionably beside a sleek, contemporary structure, boasting vast expanses of glass. Next to that could stand a grand, traditional farmhouse-style home with a deep, gracious porch. Many yards featured tables and outdoor seating, testament to a lifestyle embracing al fresco dining. In one yard, they spotted a woman relaxing with a little girl in a hammock. At this hour, as dusk settled and lights glowed warmly within the houses, windows thrown open wide, it was easy to glimpse snippets of indoor life. People sipping drinks on couches, gathered around cheese boards, someone even playing a piano. In front of one home, a pile of sand toys dried near the garage while a man tossed a ball, with two small girls in the front garden. Dogs pranced excitedly behind picket fences. What a wonderful life for a dog, Ilara mused. She noticed more and more people emerging to set up luminaries along their driveways, simple white paper bags weighted with sand, each cradling a lit candle in its center. Some homes opted instead for strings of white lights woven around trees and fences. Lena recalled seeing a flyer mentioning that today was designated the Night of White Lights, explaining the festive illuminations. Ilara found it utterly charming. The street glowed with a soft, magical beauty. Their stroll eventually led them along a stretch running parallel to the beach. The tide, having reached its zenith while they rested, was now receding once more. Figures could be seen in pairs and small groups scattered along the shoreline, seemingly having wandered away from evening gatherings to admire the moonrise or toss toys for energetic dogs. Ilara loved observing that many appeared to have made the short trek from their homes completely barefoot. Soon, Ilara and Lena found themselves back at the inn, marveling at the perfect timing of their walk's conclusion. Re-entering the lobby, they waited patiently for the restaurant host to lead them to the reserved table. The atmosphere inside the spacious dining room was now imbued with evening charm. Votive candles flickered on every table, and the two screened porches flanking the main room were filled with diners leaning towards each other in quiet conversation. Ilara and Lena were shown to an intimate table in a nook, perfectly positioned to catch the warm breezes drifting in from outside. Perusing the menus, they faced a delightful dilemma. The offerings catered to every palate: fresh seafood, pastas, wood-fired pizzas, and more. After careful consideration, Ilara chose a seafood pasta while Lena opted for a pizza. Both dishes proved sublime, especially satisfying after a long day surrendered to the beach. Why, Ilara pondered idly, did simply sitting in the sand induce such profound hunger? It remained one of life's pleasant mysteries. They concluded their meal by sharing a slice of cheesecake. Ilara savored each mouthful, carefully slicing off small portions with her fork, relishing the dessert's rich creaminess. Once the last crumb of cheesecake was gone, they both had to concede they were truly ready for bed. The friends felt full, profoundly content, and more relaxed than either could remember being in a very long time. Offering thanks to their server and the host, they walked slowly back into the lobby. The sole occupant now was a nighttime desk attendant, efficiently clearing the last vestiges of the coffee service and preparing the station for the morning. She turned and offered them a warm smile. "Did you enjoy your dinner?" she inquired kindly. They both nodded enthusiastically, affirming that it had been wonderful. And it truly had. Ilara and Lena each poured a fresh glass of water from the drink dispenser before heading upstairs, parting ways on the landing with quiet good nights. They knew this day, in its simple perfection, would linger long in their memories. Back within the sanctuary of her room, Ilara sank gratefully into the embrace of her large, soft bed. Gazing around with deep appreciation, she reflected on the singular loveliness of the place. Thanks to the balmy night air, the windows remained open, admitting the occasional murmur of conversation or the whir of a passing bicycle from the lane below. Ilara propped herself against a mound of white pillows, angling her book into the golden circle of light cast by the bedside lamp. The silence within the room felt absolute, cocooning her from the gentle nocturnal rhythms of the seaside town outside. She had entertained the notion of finishing her novel, but soon her eyelids grew heavy, signaling the undeniable summons of sleep. Setting the book aside for the morrow, she flattened the pillows, reached over, and extinguished the lamp. Turning onto her side, she gazed drowsily at the sliver of moonlight painting a luminous path across the white floorboards. In the darkness, everything here seemed rendered in gold and white, she thought, already half lost to slumber. The salty breeze stirred her curtains once more. As Ilara drifted into sweet, untroubled dreams, the distant rhythmic sigh of the surf breaking upon the sand was the last sound she heard. Then she slept. Good night. Your day, steeped in the luminous glow of Italian Renaissance artistry, fades now into the quiet theater of your bedroom. One particular vision lingers. Sandro Mariano's Primavera, that vast tempera dreamscape conjured between the late 1470s and early 1480s. A Florentine master, Mariano, whose brush had graced Rome's Sistine Chapel at papal behest, turned later to myths whispered down centuries. His Birth of Venus, his Primavera. These endure, testaments to a profound grasp of nature's lexicon and literary illusion. This specific tableau, a sprawling 2 by 3 meters, resonates with the burgeoning life it depicts. And so, poised on the threshold of sleep, where consciousness softens and frays, the world behind your eyelids surrenders to this image. Primavera materializes not merely remembered, but present. It hangs solitary within an exquisitely adorned chamber, encased in a gilded wooden frame that catches an unseen light. Drawn by an invisible current, you drift closer. The figures within achieve their true scale, life-size deities and nymphs inhabiting their painted world. Your gaze finds itself captured inevitably by the serene countenance of Ethel, the heart of the composition. Goddess of love, of beauty's bloom, of fertile earth and fortune's smile, Ethel. Though 8 other souls share her sylvan stage, she commands the central space, an island of calm regard. Her hair cascades in waves of spun gold. Her form, generously curved, is draped in regal blue, overlaid with a mantle of deepest crimson. She is beauty incarnate. You look, and impossibly, she looks back. Her right hand lifts, palm open, an invitation whispered across the painted air. A tremor of disbelief, a trick of the fading light. But no, the gesture repeats, fluid and deliberate, accompanied this time by a conspiratorial wink. Hesitation dissolves. You step forward, the boundary between observer and observed blurring, the very pigment and texture seeming to breathe, to pulse. Ethel extends her hand, cool and smooth, drawing you across the threshold, into the heart of the grove. You stand now within a meadow, delirious with blossom. Hundreds of flower varieties push through the verdant grass, familiar pinks, reds, yellows, whites, mingling with blooms utterly strange and new. Ethel smiles, a gentle sweep of her hand urging you to drink in the scene. Delicate petals unfurl, dotting the foreground like scattered jewels. The air itself is perfumed, rose and jasmine, lavender's calm, the shy sweetness of violets, the bold declaration of lilies, an olfactory tapestry of spring. Overhead, the sun pours down its warmth from a sky immaculate, cloudless. If ever an archetype of spring existed, it is this. Closing your eyes momentarily, you allow the sheer loveliness to saturate your senses, drawing in a slow, deep, tranquil breath, releasing it fully. Eyes open once more. You study the figures arrayed before you, their identities, and the unfolding narrative familiar, etched in your mind from earlier study. Commissioned, it's widely held, by the powerful Orsini clan, bankers and political titans who shaped 15th century Florence, as a wedding gift for young Leandro. Primavera, destined to hang above the marital bed, an allegory of spring's return, of life renewed. It speaks of union, fertility, profound change. An allegory, a story told in symbols, characters, and objects, freighted with meaning, awaiting decipherment. Here, immersed within its very fabric, the story feels less deciphered than intuitively known. You recall Sandro Mariano, his portraiture securing the Orsini's crucial patronage, a master weaver of myth, inspired equally by classical echoes and the Renaissance hunger for the ideal human form. Whispers suggested a local beauty. All tumbling gold curls and elegant lines had so captivated the artist that her likeness graced every female figure in this masterwork. You perceive it now, the graceful, feminine forms lending the entire scene a subtle, flowing musicality. Save for Ethel's steady, outward gaze, all others exist in arrested motion, a testament to Mariano's genius in capturing the human body in myriad poses. While the foreground bursts with light and life, the background recedes into cooler, darker tones. Beyond the figures lies a dense grove, orange trees mingling with laurel, myrtle, a tapestry of deep greens. Each plant, carries its own symbolic weight. Oranges, an emblem of the Orsini. Laurel, hinting at victory and echoing Leandro's name in Italian. Botanists, astoundingly, have identified over 500 distinct species of flora within this single panel. Moving towards the orange grove, a cool breeze greets you, rich with the bright tang of citrus. As the air stirs, your gaze shifts to the far right, where Corin descends. God of the west wind, spring's herald, he emerges from the leafy backdrop, reaching for the nymph Lysa, clad in a near-transparent gown, a flowering vine escaping her lips. She's caught in his embrace. In that touch, transformation occurs. Lysa becomes Anthea, Roman goddess of flowers, spring personified. Anthea stands now between her former self and Ethel, radiant in a flowing dress embroidered with blossoms. She gathers roses in the folds of her gown, scattering them onto the grass, each petal floating down like a benediction. This floral offering signifies both the season and nascent life. A crown and necklace woven of flowers adorn her. Her sleeves shimmer, seemingly crafted from dragonfly wings. Golden scales pattern her forearms, meeting the silken fabric at the elbow where decorative plumes fan outwards. The sheer artistry, the intricate detail of her attire, leaves you breathless. You consider these three figures on the right, Corin, Lysa, Anthea, as a narrative unit, embodying spring's inception. Taking another deep breath in, releasing it slowly, you contemplate the symbolism: burgeoning flowers, metamorphosis, the undeniable pulse of transformation and growth. Witnessed up close, the painting reveals its intricate, layered system of meaning with stunning clarity. The Renaissance, a zenith where art, literature, and philosophy converged. It embraced perceived classical ideals, seeking beauty in all things, championing humanism alongside, and sometimes over, divinity. The Orsini, notable patrons, often commissioned works celebrating pagan themes, a departure from purely religious art. Ethel's centrality exemplifies this. She stands slightly elevated, positioned deeper within the grove, undeniably the focal point, her gaze locking with yours. Behind her, the trees part, forming a natural arch, reminiscent of an apse, that semicircular recess often framing depictions of the Virgin Mary in religious iconography. Mary, too, is traditionally shown in red and blue, Ethel's very colors. This interplay of pagan and Christian symbolism is a hallmark of the era. Here, Ethel represents love, beauty, and the sanctity of marriage, while Anthea embodies new love, potential, the tender beginnings of spring. Ethel signifies motherhood, the season in its full, nurturing bloom. Above her hovers her son, Amerino, a winged cherub, blindfolded, god of desire, attraction, affection. His arrow is notched, aimed directly at Serena, one of the three charities to the left. The blindfold, a poignant reminder. Love indeed is blind. Just left of Ethel and Amerino dance the three charities: Splendora, Serena, and Amara, beauty, chastity, and love. Their diaphanous gowns reveal elegant limbs, fingers interlacing at 3 points as they move in a circle. This circularity speaks of continuity, rhythm, harmony. It also brilliantly showcases Mariano's skill. presenting the sisters from distinct viewpoints, like observing a sculpture in the round, yet imbued with undeniable fluidity and grace. The Charities were figures familiar from contemporary literature. Viewers would have recognized their story. From right to left, Splendora, beauty, the most adorned, wearing pearls of purity and a golden pendant, glances back towards Corin. Serena, chastity, unadorned, gazes towards Silenius. Amara, love, completes the circle. Together they symbolize classical feminine virtues, the evolving stages of love. Observing them, you feel a profound sense of concord, a visual melody. It's fascinating how these three distinct forms merge into a single symbolic entity. The entire Primavera, you realize, is a meditation on the multifaceted nature of beauty and femininity. So much unfolds within this single frame. Yet beauty and vitality resonate as the unifying themes. Furthest left stands the god Silenius. His posture echoes Michelangelo's later David. Winged sandals grace his feet. He wears a red robe, a helmet, carries a sword. His right arm reaches skyward, gently dispersing gathering clouds, ensuring the eternal spring of this domain. His gaze is uplifted, directed away from the others. In Roman myth, Silenius served as divine messenger, associated also with medicine, commerce, prosperity. Here, he symbolizes the young Leandro, perhaps even modeled after him, just as Anthea is thought to represent Leandro's bride-to-be. Together, Silenius and the Charities signify late spring. Having lingered with each figure, absorbed their individual stories and collective meaning, you step back, closing your eyes. Awe washes over you, the sheer beauty unfurling all around. The extraordinary privilege of stepping inside this celebrated artwork, witnessing its vibrant life. The scent of rose, lily, and countless other blossoms fills the air, intoxicating, inspiring. This profusion of flowers and fruit, the emerald grass, the sheltering trees, it creates a veritable Eden. A soft breeze caresses your skin. Anthea has just scattered another handful of petals at your feet. Delicate pink drifts blanket the earth. Above, Silenius nudges another cloud aside, keeping the sun's benevolent gaze unobstructed. You watch the Charities twirl in harmonious grace, their light steps barely disturbing the petal-strewn ground, silken robes and golden hair catching the breeze. Amarino hovers, arrow drawn, while Serena dances on, blissfully unaware. The mingled scents, orange blossom, fresh-cut grass, sweet flowers, the spicy note of laurel, weave a complex perfume. It feels utterly dreamlike, exquisitely beautiful. Your eyes meet Ethel's one last time. You offer a silent thanks for her welcome into this living tableau. A profound appreciation settles within you for the intricate messages conveyed through this masterfully orchestrated scene. The weaving of symbols, classical, philosophical, literary, the exploration of beauty in its myriad forms, love's transformative power, subtle nods to the powerful patrons, the vibrant palette, the expert spatial composition. You appreciate the journey, winter yielding to spring, maiden to bride to mother, pagan goddess echoing Christian mother, literature rendered visual. The metamorphoses throughout pulse with vernal energy, new life, boundless potential, growth, transformation, sheer beauty. This is the season of rebirth, longed for through winter's dark, now embodied in triumphant glory. So much depth resides here. so much to contemplate. Small wonder it remains a cornerstone, a masterpiece of the entire Renaissance. You sit for a moment longer, allowing these impressions to settle, to integrate into mind and heart. A wish surfaces to linger here indefinitely, inhabiting this perfect spring day, forever witnessing beauty and love dance before you. Ethel catches your gaze again, a silent assurance passing between you. You can return whenever you wish. This sanctuary remains open, accessible always in the theater of your mind. You thank her wordlessly for this kindness, deciding to stay just a little while more. Finding a welcoming patch of earth, you lie back upon the meadow, enveloped by the fragrance of living flowers. The grass yields softly beneath you. The sun bestows its gentle warmth upon your skin. Your body surrenders to the earth's embrace, relaxing deeply. Anthea tosses a final, fragrant handful of roses nearby as you ease towards rest. With each breath, tension dissolves further. You feel utterly safe here, welcomed, profoundly inspired. It is time for sleep, for rejuvenation, time to rest within this most beautiful celestial spring garden. The dream images forming in your mind are serene, peaceful, as you drift effortlessly away. Good night.